Hello everyone. Today we will discuss about tissue. My discussion will be in these two parts. Number 1 is plant tissue and number 2 is animal tissue. First of all, I would like to draw your attention about tissue. What is tissue? We told that in multicellular organisms there are different types of cells. Some cells are grouped together to perform specific type of function. These group of cells are called tissue. In plants, there are different types of tissues, and in animal there are also different types of tissues. First of all, I would like to draw your attention about plant tissue. First of all, I will say about meristematic tissue. At the tip of root and stem of plant, we will see meristematic tissue. In this tissue, the cells are always dividing and the cell wall is cellulose deposited, and inside the cell there is dense cytoplasm without any vacuole, but there is a prominent nuclei. As there are always dividing cells, the cells are fresh. There is lack of vacuole. The meristematic tissue is of 3 types. Here I will see the figure. This is meristematic tissue. The upper portion is at the tip of root and stem of plant. There is apical meristematic tissue. It helps in the elongation of the plant in length. There is lateral meristematic tissue at the lateral side of the root and stem of the plant. This is lateral meristematic tissue which helps in the elongation, the growth of the lateral side of the root and stem. Okay? Apical meristematic tissue helps in the elongation in length, and for lateral meristematic tissue it helps in the lateral side growth of the plant. There is also intercalary meristematic tissue, and this is the intercalary meristematic tissue which is found in the base of the leaf, and it helps in the longitudinal growth of the plant. The second type of tissue is permanent tissue, and beneath the meristematic tissue there is permanent tissue, and when there is single type of cell, this is simple permanent tissue. When there is more than one type of cell, this is complex permanent tissue. Simple permanent tissue is of 3 types: parenchyma tissue, collenchyma tissue and sclerenchyma tissue. Parenchyma tissue is like that. This collenchyma and this sclerenchyma. Parenchyma tissue cells are found in the cortex pith of the root and stem and mesophyll of the leaves, and cells has different types of cell wall. Actually, the cell wall is deposited with cellulose, and there is thick cell wall inside the cell. There is cytoplasm with vacuole and prominent nuclei. Sometimes parenchyma is filled with chlorophyll green pigment. The name is chlorenchyma, and sometimes the parenchyma is filled with cavity which gives buoyancy to the plant. Chlorenchyma helps in the photosynthesis of the plant. Arenchyma helps in the buoyancy of the plant. Sometimes parenchyma is responsible for also storing food materials, nutritive materials. On the other hand, collenchyma is found in the mid-rib of the plant leaf. Here it is the mid-leaf. This collenchyma has a specific type of cell wall, and the cell wall is deposited with cellulose, hemicellulose, pectin, and the intracellular space is not enough here. When it is in parenchyma tissue, the intercellular space is so big, the cells are loosely fitted. Here it is the intercellular space, but here intercellular space shortens due to the deposition of cellulose hemicellulose pectin in the cell wall, and there is large vacuole and with a prominent nuclei. Here it is. And sclerenchyma tissue cells are generally dead. They are lacks of cytoplasm, vacuole and nucleus. This is like that, and intercellular space is not present here. So their cell wall is deposited with cellulose hemicellulose pectin suberin. Suberin is the main component of the cell wall of sclerenchyma tissue. Here we can say this is the comparative study between parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma, and the question will come about the structural character, functional character, and marks will be marks 3 or marks 2 like that. Okay, then we will shift to the complex permanent tissue, and the main components are xylem and phloem. This is the conductive tissue which is present in the vascular bundle. In the vascular bundle of the plant, there is also parenchyma which is named as cambium. We will have the question like what is cambium? Okay, then the answer will be the parenchyma cell present in the vascular bundle of the plant is called cambium. Okay, now the main component of xylems are trachea, xylem parenchyma, xylem fiber. Xylem, the complex permanent tissue, helps in the conduction of water, okay, from root to the upper portion of the plant, and the components are generally dead except xylem parenchyma. Xylem parenchyma only the living component of the xylem. Now the components are covered by lignified cell wall. The deposition of lignin is present here, and for the dead components trachea, xylem fiber, there is lack of cytoplasm and nuclei. The tapering end is present in trachea, this tapering end, but for trachea one place to another. Okay, this is trachea vessel, this is trachea vessel, and xylem fiber is like fiber-like appearance. Now come to the point of phloem. Phloem has 4 types of components. The components are sheath tube, sheath shell, companion cell, and phloem parenchyma and phloem fiber. Now this phloem fiber is only the dead component with sclerenchyma cells. Now sheath cells, sheath tube, companion cells and phloem parenchyma are covered by perforated cell walls. Now we will see sheath tube like that. There is the only living component which lacks nuclei. Okay, there is lack of nuclei, there is no nucleus, only living component is sheath tube, and between these two sheath tube there is a sheath plate, and this is the companion cell. Companion cell has cytoplasm, vacuole and nuclei. Okay, now this is the main functional structural characteristics of all types of plant cells, and after that I will discuss about animal cells. There are also different types of animal cells. First of all, I will say epithelium tissue. This is the outer lining of every organ of our body, which is sometimes acts as mechanical barrier and transport different types of materials, food, nutritive materials, oxygen, carbon dioxide, gas exchange, releasing waste products. Sometimes epithelial cell acts as the rigidity, flexibility of organ, protective part of our organ from our outer injury. So this epithelial tissue can be of different types: squamous epithelial tissue, cuboidal epithelial tissue, columnar epithelial tissue, and the last glandular epithelial tissue. Squamous epithelial tissue is found in the lining of mouth, lining of esophagus and lining of lungs alveoli. This type of tissue has a cell like this, and sometimes there are a single layer of cells when this is called actually simple squamous epithelium. When there is multiple layer of cells, this is called stratified squamous epithelial tissue. Simple squamous epithelial tissue, stratified squamous epithelial tissue. Now, cuboidal epithelial tissue has cube-shaped cells, and this is found in the kidney ducts lining. Okay. Now, at the lining of intestine, at the lining of digestive system, there is columnar epithelial tissue. The cells are like elongated. Sometimes there is ciliates present at the outer covering of the cell. Sometimes epithelial tissue cells are accumulated to form a gland-like structure, and this is the glandular epithelial tissue, and this type of tissue actually stores some materials, the nutritive materials. Sometimes it releases, okay, this secretion is done by the glandular epithelial tissue, and this is the more overall idea of epithelial tissue. Now she took the point of connective tissue, and connective tissue actually maintains the continuity of the body. The fluid connective tissue is blood, and there is a matrix called plasma. RBC helps in the gaseous exchange through respiration. WBC helps in maintaining the immunity of our body and actually can fight against the outer antigen. Yes, and last portion is platelet, which helps in the clotting of the blood in our body. Now, what is bone and cartilage? These are also connective tissue. Actually, bone is non-flexible. Cartilage is flexible. If we see the structural characteristic of bone and cartilage, so we will notice that bone has Haversian system. This is Haversian system, and the central portion is canaliculi, and the filamentous structure is lacuna. Okay, the specific types of cells are present here. These are osteoblast. These cells are covered by periosteum membrane. Every information is important here. Osteoclast are cells. Periosteum membranes are present. Now about the cartilage. Cartilage has specific type of matrix. This is a matrix is called chondrine, and the cell is called chondroblast. There is a microfilament present by which this type of connective tissue is flexible. It is present in the outer portion of bone and helps in protecting the bone movement. Okay, in ear leaf, in front of nose, we can also notice in many parts of our body. We also notice cartilage. Sometimes connective tissue connects one bone to another. Sometimes connective tissue connects one muscle to a bone. Then bone-to-bone connection is made by ligament. Bone-to-muscle connection is made by tendon. Sometimes outer skin this is the epidermis, outer skin and muscle connection. In between this skin and muscle, there is also a connective tissue called areolar tissue, which helps in the repair of other tissue. There is also another type of connective tissue is called adipose tissue. Adipose tissue is a fat reservoir which helps in the insulation of our body. Okay, these are all about the connective tissue: bone, cartilage, ligament, tendon, areolar tissue, adipose tissue, blood. These types of connective tissue we can say we notice in our body. The last two types of main tissue is muscular tissue and nervous tissue. First of all, we will say muscular tissue. Muscular tissue contains a specific type of muscle fiber and muscle protein. There are three types of muscular tissue, which are stratified, unstratified, cardiac. Stratified tissue is why this is called stratified, because such type of tissue, if it is placed under microscope, there are light dark band striation. So this is called strated muscular tissue, and the contraction and relaxation of our limb like this is dependent on the continuous will. So this is voluntary tissue, and this is also called skeletal tissue. When on the other hand, this is smooth tissue. Okay, and This type of tissue is normally dependent, contraction and relaxation is dependent upon it is not that it depends on the continuous will. So this is involuntary, and if it is placed under the microscope, there is no striation, there is no light dark band is present there. So in the alimentary canal, in the uterus, in iris of our eye, there is this unstriated muscular tissue. So striated muscular tissue can be voluntary skeletal muscle, and unstriated muscular tissue can be involuntary smooth. The position here, it is limb, and here is any alimentary canal, uterus, etc. The one more information is that striated muscular tissue is multinucleated and unstriated muscular tissue is uninucleated. The last portion is cardiac muscle, and the cardiac muscle is actually a involuntary muscular tissue, and the contraction relaxation is not dependent on the continuous will. This is uninucleated also, but under microscope there is presence of striation. So there is a character of striated muscular tissue, also there is a character of involuntary muscular tissue. So this is a mixed muscular tissue. We can notice intercalated disc also. Okay, now the last tissue is nervous tissue. The main structural function unit of this nervous tissue is neuron. By this nervous tissue, the nerve impulses is transmitted from one neuron to another. Neuron basic structure, we will notice there is two types of projections. One is branch projections. Here this is short also, this is dendron, and one is large unbranched projection which is called axon. The in between dendron and axon there is soma, the cell body, and it has a specific character which is inactive centriole. By this inactive centriole, neuron can never be divided. Cell division is not performed because it has the inactive centriole. Okay, this is the all about information is animal tissue, and all structural and functional characteristics are important here. So I think this whole video is going to be useful to your study. So please download Google Play Store app Knowledge Flame, and please subscribe YouTube Knowledge Flame channel.